Everybody. We are back today with Brandy of Brandy Astrology, and we are going to be discussing the astrology surrounding the disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa. This is something that, this is a case that people have requested in the comments, and it has been mentioned to me in like messages and shit that we should look at this. It's an old case, well-known case. Nobody knows where the fuck the body is. Yeah.
Where is he?
Yeah, exactly. Where is he? We are going to do some mapping in this video, play around with some mapping a little bit. Not that I necessarily know what the hell I'm doing with that. We're going to play around with it. But just a brief kind of background of who Jimmy Hoffa was. He served as the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters from 1957 through 1971. They did have ties with the mob. And that is who they feel like the mob ties did, the mafia did eventually take him out. That's what they assume anyway. That's or one of the theories. He went to prison in the 60s, and he resigned from being president of the Teamsters in June of 71. He was released from prison in December of 71. And Nixon commuted his sentence to time served. But when he was released, he couldn't, it said here, he couldn't engage in the direct or indirect management of any labor organization until 1980. Some suspected that the Teamsters actually had this condition put into place for his part of his release. Like they feel like they were involved in that deal or something. But by 1973, he was trying to regain presidency, though this was met by a lot of resistance. And I mentioned that backstory because that kind of ties into what happened on July 30th of 1975, which is when he went missing. Okay, so he was trying to become president of the Teamsters again, and they weren't really having it, or some parts of the organization weren't having it. He was supposed to meet a man named Anthony Provenzano. I might not be pronouncing that right, but he was supposed to be meeting him at 2 p.m. at the Red Fox restaurant in right outside of Detroit. I think it was, I have it on the chart, but I think it was like Bloomington or something like that. It's a suburb of Detroit. He didn't show up though. Called his wife at 2:30 to say, I guess he was pissed that he felt like he'd been stood up. Said he'd be home by 4 p.m. Never showed up at home by 4 p.m. The FBI estimates that he left the location around 2:45 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. on his own volition. One witness saw him in the back of a maroon Lincoln or Mercury with 3 other people, though that, even though there is a time there, that doesn't seem like 100% verified. So we're not using, I guess I bring that up. We're not going to be using that particular chart. That's, then the next morning at 7 a.m., his wife called their kids to let them know that he never came home the day before. They found his car in the Red Fox parking lot at 7:20 a.m., but there was no sign of him anywhere. And at 6 p.m. on July 31st of 75, the missing persons report is filed by his son, James. Yeah. I think it's probably a pretty good summation. Sorry, that was a lot of information.
That was good though. We're all like caught up, and I needed a little reminder too of like kind of the events. So no, that was perfect.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I guess we'll go ahead and the chart. We're gonna be looking at 2 charts. We're gonna look at the one for 2:30 p.m. when he calls his wife, and then we're gonna look at the one for 6 p.m. the next day when the missing persons report was filed. And actually, awesome. That's the one that I'm taking the mapping from. Why I could go with the other one, but for some reason that one just, I don't know.
Yeah, you got to go with what feels right. You know, what seems to be the right one.
Yeah, there's something about it being like an actual report that's, I don't know. There's something about it that feels like that's, I don't know. Okay, should I share?
Yeah. Yeah, the chart where he calls his wife. So this is like what the last time it's verified anyone heard from him.
Yes. Yeah, Bloomfield, Michigan. That's where, yeah.
Bloomfield.
Which is the, yeah,
Well,
which is the, yeah. Yeah.
so we have a chart where he's last heard from for sure. And we got a Scorpio ascendant, not a great sign for the sign of death to be on the ascendant on the last heard from chart.
Yes. And having that Mars, well, it's actually interesting. You see both of these, you know, you've got Mars in the seventh, right? He is going to a meeting
He's
with
not in
some,
a good placement though. He's like
no,
Mars and Taurus. Like he is not in a good placement here.
no,
This is not good.
he's definitely not. He is, it feels like a vulnerable place to be.
Very much. And you know, also not real aware because Taurus is like a slow Mars, you know what I mean? It's like not very energized. So, you know, I hate to be like that, but it's like not kind of being maybe naive or not thinking ahead of what this could be.
Yes. Yeah. And also, you know, the modern ruler, Pluto in the 11th, you know, he was going to this meeting for the reason being a group thing, right? Like wanting to have control of the group again.
Yeah.
So
a very
that also,
union placement, you know, yeah.
it both of these, I get both of these rulers, they make sense where they are for sure. And
Yeah.
in this chart.
And that moon, which would also be a co-ruler for him, being in Taurus, being exalted, can kind of be, you know, exaggerated or thinking you have, I hate to say it this way too, but more importance than you are. Like maybe he's thinking, oh, no one can get to me because I'm important. I don't know. That feels like that moon is kind of representing the attitude here as well.
Yeah, I could, yeah, I could see, yeah. Yeah. And that Taurus descendant, we're looking at like, because nobody knows who actually killed him. I mean, nobody knows what actually happened to him. He was legally declared dead. I believe it was in 1982. I think that's when. But I mean, nobody really knows exactly what we're looking at here. I do feel like though, you know, Taurus is, you know, there is a slowness to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This does make me think that the perpetrator, and also Mars, you know, in the seventh house, it's almost like an anger that's been building.
Yeah. Slow build.
Yeah. That's what it, like, it's been a slow, steady. So I do think whoever did this, there had been a slow, steady build of of that anger.
Right. And it feels very money related, which is why the mob was involved with unions. I believe they were involved in the pension funds. And, you know, this is very much a money sign as well. Mm-hmm. And the perpetrators here, I say perpetrators or perpetrator, you know, being ruled by that Venus in Virgo, I mean, this is in a fall here.
Yes.
So these people aren't set up well either. But it feels like someone he knows because this is like Venus. This is like relationships, like someone he probably thought he could maybe trust or.
Yeah, and he did. And he did. I mean, the the guy that I mentioned that he was meeting at the restaurant, Anthony Provenzano. Again, if I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry about that. He was the Teamsters local leader in New Jersey and national vice president of the Teamsters during Hoffa's second term as president.
Oh, so he does know him well, and gotcha.
He does.
Okay.
He was also a word that I cannot pronounce in I think it's Genovese crime family. I know what the family is. I just can't pronounce anything for shit. But he was.
We're reading the information. It's like you don't hear it. You're reading the names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrible at pronouncing shit in general, so bear with me. But yeah, he was involved in that family as well. So, but he definitely did know, Hoffa and him did know one another.
So this person who's supposedly meeting, we know they know each other. We know there's a work relationship. You've got Venus in Virgo, also a sign of work and service, which I almost feel like you can put union stuff in a 6th house as well.
Moon's there.
Yes. This makes, and of course, you know, we do these videos, we don't point fingers, but according to the astrology, that kind of fits the description, what's going on here.
Yeah, it does. It does. It seems like it does. Like it makes sense to me.
And Venus is in the 10th house, which is very visible, you know,
Yes.
where the world can see, and they're meeting what, at lunchtime-ish?
Yeah, but yeah, you know, kind of like Leonard time.
Yeah.
but in a very visible place, right? Like it's in a shopping center. This you know, it's not like this restaurant's off the beaten path in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. I mean, it's
right.
I could put that better.
So clearly, and we know this, but nothing's going on in front of people. There's just a meeting.
Yeah.
Whatever happens to them has to be like, taken away from the meeting destination, obviously, but it just shows it in the astrology as well.
And the taking away, you know, the other thing, you know, it's like, how did he die? You know,
How did he die? Or, you know, and there's some questions of, did he die? I know there's some theories. Did he take off, go to a foreign country? Did he escape? Did this person maybe help him?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. A Scorpio ascendant on this chart makes me think that's not likely.
Yeah, and with Mars where it is, it's like I don't. Yeah, that is one theory that as I was starting to look at these, I was like, could I entertain that? Let me try entertaining that.
You can try with that 9th house because there's a lot going on in the 9th house, but we got Saturn there in its detriment, and so probably not.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think something definitely happened. And you know, it's interesting with Gemini on the cusp of that 8th house, right? You know, going somewhere else. I don't know. It does kind of. Not that that's the manner of death, but I do think it's interesting. It happens to be right there, and
yeah, a symbol that could be like transportation, local travel.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And but you know that 8th house in Gemini is ruled by a combust Mercury.
Yes.
That's a problem. That's not real hopeful that, oh, this guy drove him somewhere to escape and get to safety somehow. That's probably not likely with a combust ruler, my opinion.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I agree. Or like they just went and had like a nice little talk about something.
Yeah. Mercury combust is like, it's just, yeah, not good. It's being eaten up by the sun. It's, you know, not clear communication, not what you, yeah.
The manner of death. I mean, if we're gonna, I mean, I guess this is the case. I mean, normally we don't need to go into this, but I do think since there's so little known, we could go into that here.
Yeah, I mean, a Gemini, you know, 8th house is death. You got Gemini here. Could we get some clues about manner of death? You know, Gemini is the lungs.
Yeah, my thought was like asphyxiation or like suffocation.
Yeah.
Though Gemini is also multiple shit, so it could have actually been,
which would be kind of mobby, right? They usually don't let you go in a peaceful manner. Like there's usually some brutality,
yeah,
and some suffering that they like. You know, at least historically, that usually the method they go to.
Yeah,
that's a great point. It could be multiple
different. Yeah. It doesn't feel good. That's for sure.
No. I guess, and another thing we could pull out about in this chart is that Uranus in the 12th house. Just kind of another clue. This is really unexpected.
Yeah, and I'll
some sort of loss.
Yeah, and I'll bring up, I don't have that chart because it's the last time he was verified to actually have, or his wife said that she heard from him was at 2:30 that day, but he left the house. He left his house at 1:15. And on that chart, you've got Uranus in the first house conjunct the ascendant. So it is kind of, I was just curious what that chart looked like,
And that's another clue about 11th house activity, because it's the modern ruler of 11th house, or Aquarius, which is, traditional rulership of that house. Just kind of another clue there maybe as well, or really not accidents. I don't think you could, but unexpected, unpredictable.
Maybe because, something that I read is that like he did, okay, so, and I already forgot how to pronounce this guy's name. The guy who I already fucking forgot how to pronounce this guy's name.
Jackaloni.
Okay. Because so Brandy and I, we try to pronounce, we listen to pronunciations.
We try to research. We get into Google and say pronounce, and we spell out the name. So if you're mad at us for mispronouncing, it's Google's fault. You looked it up.
Okay, so that guy, also another Anthony. He and his younger brother Vito were doing something like trying to play mediator between Provenzano and Hoffa. Okay. But anytime they would like be involved, from what I read, and I could be wrong, right? From what I've read, it seems like anytime they were involved, Hoffa was more nervous. So I wonder if that Uranus there, like in that one chart, could point towards, I don't know, because Uranus can be kind of anxious too.
Yeah. And sometimes irrational, like not thinking this through. I'm just gonna can be anxious. I think that's true.
It's a little different than Mercury anxious, though. It's I don't really quite know how to describe.
I gotta get out of here, and I gotta get out of here
really fast, really sudden, like
And I don't know about the other chart. I know in this chart, that 4th house, which you can look at for endings or the outcome, is being it's in Aquarius. So it's also modernly ruled by that Uranus.
Yes.
And traditionally ruled by that Saturn in Cancer. And I don't want to jump ahead because I know we're going to map, but I do wonder, does the mapping leading to any water spots?
There are some, and that Saturn in Cancer actually plays prominently in one of the places that I mapped. Not only because of Saturn being like the body, but also because it's next to a wedge.
Yes, it is.
But yes, there is some water involved for sure. Should we look at the chart for the next chart?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, so this is when the missing person report was filed by his son. Can you see this okay?
I can. Perfect.
Okay, because that damn thing. Okay, good. All right. So, yeah.
You have that Saturn in Cancer that we were just talking about, just leaving the 8th house, but still on the cusp. So I'd still consider it 8th housey. Not a good testimony if you're hoping to find someone alive, you also got that Sun and Mercury well seated in the 8th house. That's you don't want to see that luminary there either.
Also intercepted.
It is, yes, it is intercepted, yes. And yeah, the ruler of this chart, if we're going to start over with rulers, is the Jupiter in Aries in the 4th house of endings. This not great.
No, I don't know. No, it's not. No, it's not. And in this chart, you have that descendant in Gemini, which does kind of make me wonder if there could have been more than one person involved in this.
I would think so. At least, like historically speaking, there's a murder, there's people who help hide the body, there's usually multiple people involved in these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely more than one person who knows where he's at.
Yeah.
Or what happened to him, or what went down.
Yeah, and with in this chart with that Cancer on the 8th house, or on the 8th house cusp, that's another thing that kind of does lead me to think water, right? Like water, something watery, right? But also the multiple method, right? Mercury, Gemini, Moon, Cancer. There's a changeable quality to both of these, right? Different kinds of ways, but it also kind of reinforces the thought that I think there are multiple ways that multiple things they probably did to him. Which I guess we don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
good enough.
Likely. Yeah, and good enough. Yeah. Mob deaths they tend to be brutal. It's yeah.
What's interesting about his, though, is they do tend to make examples.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I mean, you know what I mean? Like leaving people shot and strangled in their car, shit like that, where they would be found. Whereas that is the one kind of, or one of the things that I think is interesting about this, because the astrology really does point towards them, having to do it, having done this. But I wonder why why an example wasn't made in that way.
This feels like more like solving a problem.
Okay.
Than let this be a message for people, but
no, I see what you're saying. Like, let's just get rid of them, and
yeah. But you're right. It's different than
it is. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. But no, I see what you're saying. If they're just wanting to get rid of somebody, like, let's just, yeah.
Yeah, going by this chart, being a Jupiter ruled chart and the perpetrators being Mercury, it's definitely kind of a thing here about what Jimmy Hoffa knows.
Yeah.
And let's not talk, because Jupiter is very bold and like,
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to hold back. Yeah, I think this is definitely like, we got, maybe, I hate to get in the mind of killers, like that's the worst place to go, but it's like, let's solve this so no information comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Leave it a mystery,
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It does. That does make sense to me. And if we're going by this chart with that ascendant conjunct the galactic center, he probably knew some weird shit, is my guess.
He knew a lot and was involved, and
I think it was like,
yeah. Which, I mean, it wasn't really long after this that the mob started getting out of unions, or I don't know. I think I don't want to go into the whole history of it, but I think Bobby Kennedy had a lot to do with that before he died, and
Yes, he did. He was like he was going after he went after him.
Yeah.
He did. Is there anything else that you want to say about this chart? Ooh, wait, we didn't look at fixed stars.
We gotta look at fixed stars. I forgot my fixed star book. I forgot my homework.
I have mine. Should we look at them on this one or the other one?
I would like to do both if we have time.
Okay, yeah. Which one stands out to you in this one? Like,
on this one, I would love to see the 24 degrees Aries for Hoffa's ruler on this chart, the Jupiter. Maybe the moon.
okay, yeah, okay. So at 24 degrees, 12 minutes of Taurus, there is one.
24 Aries.
Oh shit, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Yes, there's one at 23 degrees, 16 minutes of Aries.
Okay.
Which is about a degree.
Yeah, I think we could use that.
Success in public office. And then some word that I can't pronounce. Ecclesiastical success. I think it's ecclesiastical.
Okay, so you did a lot of research on this. Was he expected to get reelected, even because he was trying to get back in? Was there expected to be some success with that?
Well, from what I read, there was actually, he had actually lost support, from what I understand. He had retained some support in some parts, right? But yeah, from what I understand, he had lost more than he had, say, gained more of.
Okay. So judging by that placement, could we look at this kind of in a backwards way? Like, this sounds terrible, but if someone, instead of like, okay, trying to seek reelection, going through all this, being deemed a loser, kind of going through that process, versus something happens, you're being taken out, and your last resume entry is president of a team. Could it be like keeping, I know that sounds backwards, but kind of keeping success by what happens?
Okay, yeah.
Like going out on a high versus, I don't know if I'm like going way too far with that, but just
or even just his disappearance, like being, not that that's really a success, and
going from a crook to victim.
Yeah.
It's a little bit,
yeah.
There's more sympathy with it, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I see what and this actually is fortunate for Jupiter. That's what it says. So that's interesting that yeah,
it feels more related to legacy, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that. Is there another one that you're
you know what, let's check out Mercury at 7 degrees Leo.
what? 732?
732, yes.
Okay, so it's closest to the one at 7 degrees 24 minutes of Leo.
Okay.
Patience, courage, heroic and defiant leader.
And that's describing a perpetrator here.
Maybe they feel like they did something real good.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure they always feel like they have good reason. And
Now, there's also one at 7 degrees 12 minutes of Leo.
Okay,
but
what's that?
It's inner drive, reclusive, blindness, murder, tragedy, and fires.
With that ruler of the seventh house being in the eighth, it's probably likely whoever did this or whoever maybe was the main person involved in this probably ended up with some bad outcomes themselves.
I think that's very likely. Yeah. Yes. Are there any other ones?
No, I think that gives us quite a bit with this chart.
I'm gonna say there. Let me check the other one real quick. I was gonna see about. Okay, so we're talking about 20 and 21 degrees. Taurus. I wanted to look at the Mars. Okay, so there is one at 2052 Taurus.
Okay.
For the Mars, you know, kind of, it actually kind of falls between both of them, Mars and both in either chart. Love of knowledge, many changes, position of authority, accidents at sea, and drowning.
You got some water stuff coming up there with that one, along with that Saturn and Cancer.
Should we look at that Saturn and Cancer?
Yeah, let's look at it.
24 Cancer.
Yes, and 27 minutes, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so which one is it closest to? Okay, there's one at kind of between two. One at 2313 Cancer, contemplative speculation, audacity, astrology, ruin, disgrace, death, calamity. And then there's one at 25 degrees, 47 minutes of Cancer, violence, sudden success, then disaster, occult, politics, dissipation.
Yeah, politics definitely fits.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Should we look at the map?
Yes, I haven't got to see the map yet. I'm like super stoked to see this.
Okay. Okay, so let me explain just a little bit what the fuck I'm doing here, okay?
What the fuck are you doing out there?
Okay. Okay, and if I fuck this up, because you got to have it on this little hand, and if we start drawing shit and I accidentally, you can fuck this map right on up, okay?
Scribble maps, the joys of scribble maps.
Yes, it's very easy to do.
But you can look at it and something pops up sometimes. Like it's
yeah. Okay, so since I don't really know what the fuck to make the radius, what to go with for the radius exactly in the chart, you know, I know that we've talked before about using the ascendant. That's what I've done here. Now, as you'll see, there's a yellow circle and a blue circle. What I'm doing here with these charts is I'm taking the ascendant from the missing person report file.
okay.
So I used both 23 degrees, like a radius of 23, and I also turned it to the 360 degree wheel, right? Like 360 degrees. So it's like 263. So I have it at 23 degrees, a bearing of 23. No, sorry, not a bearing. I'm getting ahead of myself. Essentially, this is 23. This is 263.
Gotcha. Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody else watching this too, but that's kind of what I did here. So now he could be further out than that, obviously, right? Because like I said, no, we don't really know what exactly to use for the radius, but
yeah,
that's kind of what I'm looking at. Now, as far as these lines go, the things that I mapped is the wedge from here, like this 24 degrees Saturn to essentially 26 degrees, right? In Cancer. And then I mapped these two. There's something about them being intercepted in the 8th house that does stand out. I don't know. I felt like they needed to be included. So This is the Saturn 8th house line. And this is the Mercury Sun line. Or line, if you go in, you can see that there's like areas, it's a wedge. And I know this shift's not straight because I know it's very hard to get this precise. If somebody from Scribble Maps is watching this,
it's very hard, but it gives you an idea. Like we're in the area for sure,
Yes.
and man, I would want to put money on that he's in that Lake Erie.
Yeah, yes. And yeah, that's kind of what because you were like, is there water? Is there any water? Yeah, there's water. There's even this little bitty tiny lake right here.
And that could be possible too. These people got connections. They got, around, especially maybe that body of water near Detroit,
Yep.
Yeah. Either of those are very good places to look.
There are people that have said he was in a landfill in New Jersey. Okay. Now I did pull the line out because I was curious. This does go through New Jersey. It doesn't go through where the fuck? I think they said he was at a landfill in where the fuck was it? Jersey City. But I don't know. The New Jersey thing did kind of stand up because this line would go, right. I don't know.
Well, but just thinking of this, with Uranus being on that ascendant of that chart you were talking about.
We're talking multiple pieces. Yeah.
He could be in multiple parts. Sorry, I don't want to get all gruesome. Parts of him in different places.
Yeah. No, that is possible. And even, even Gemini on the cusp of that 8th house and there is, multiple things with Gemini. It could be multiple ways of death, multiple, and just in these sorts of charts, right? Like, don't be thinking if you got Gemini on the cusp of the 8th house, that means you're,
no, actually means you're very intuitive and can probably have a lot of psychic gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it is an indication that he's probably not too far away. And I would consider New Jersey not too far away.
Yeah.
Gemini speaking on an astrology chart, it's still within a part of the country. So yeah, he's probably not too far.
Yeah.
I think this map is pretty good. I think it's a likelihood that he's in these areas.
I'm actually not sure. I didn't have enough time to really look into the places that they had looked. I do wonder if they have really dragged, like Lake Erie or even like this, whatever that's called, Lake St. Clair. I do wonder if they have really looked.
I mean, you're dealing with an organization that kind of knows how to do these things. But these charts, the sun, well, except for the missing persons, that sun is in the 8th. But the other one, I'm going from memory, in the sun in the 9th house. That's also a body of water, lakes marker.
Yeah, it's also I guess it's not. I thought it was closer than it is to the midheaven. It's not as close to the midheaven as I remembered it was.
Yeah, it's, there's an indication that it's possible he could be found, or, it's not impossible. This isn't a chart where I'm like, oh no, we'll never find anything.
If we find something though, it might not be the whole person.
Probably not.
And I really do think, we were talking, I think they took his hands.
Probably.
Because
we're talking about the 70s. What is one way of identifying?
Fingerprints.
Yeah.
I think they did. And especially with Gemini on the cusp of this house, I don't know. And Gemini can be the hand. They did something with the hands. I really think they did something with the hands.
Yep.
That's weirdly specific, but it's just it's a very.
So we kind of talk about this through messages throughout the week sometimes. And when you were like, hey, Gemini's on this cusp, I mean, that was the first thing I thought, what's that got to do with the hands? Because I went, but yeah.
So you think it's possible that they might, find something at some point
long, yeah, down the road. Of course, I mean, we're already down the road, but yeah, I think it's possible. I don't, who knows when, but at some point, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Judging by the astrology, I think it's possible for sure.
It'll probably be pretty random.
Yes.
If that, like, it'll be like something like you're not looking for, like they're not looking for him. And it's like, oh, we came across a random hand.
Or, you know how these things work, like things were found, like, I mean, bones and stuff are found from time to time. And before DNA was a big thing, they're cataloged somewhere and held. Like maybe at some point with all the technology and these things are getting more and more tested, we might find that, oh,
yeah,
this was in this. I don't know. I know there's a place in Austin at UT that has like forensics lab with bones that haven't been identified, and so I mean, not to like go out down this trail, but I do wonder, like with DNA technology, will something come up like, oh, this was found at this location in the 80s and we just now tested it and it belongs to Hoffa.
That's very possible. I mean, that's totally not out of the realm of possibility here. Absolutely not.
I think that could be a Uranus thing too.
Yeah, because that's also kind of fucking random.
Yes. Random and technological.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say about any of?
No, I guess just concluding thoughts. I think he probably died soon after he was last heard from at this meeting place. I don't think he escaped and went to another country. This doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I think, yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, we're almost 50 years, are we? We are 50 years later, right? Like
yeah. No? Yeah. I can't do math right now.
I can't either. It's just not a math day. Like,
it's not a math day. It's not a math day.
Astrologer saying we're not doing math today. I don't know.
Well, let me think about this. This is going to bother me. We're missing in 75.
48 years?
Just shy of 50. Very close. Very close.
Yeah. So probably no justice. Like I said, the astrology showed whoever was responsible is probably dead or probably died a few years within, I would think. But yeah, it's one of those mysteries, though. It'll be interesting when it finally gets solved.
Yeah, it will be. And if anybody happens to have any like things that they've, it's like, something where you might hear, oh, I think he's here. I think he's here. If anybody has heard anything like that, and it happens to look like anything that you've heard is within those wedges, I leave them in the comments. I would love to hear. I know Brandy would love to. I'd be very curious.
I definitely want to hear. Yes.
Or if you know anything about them really searching those lakes or anything like that. I mean, or anything you want to share, add, by all means, feel free to leave it in the comments.
Please. There's so much information about this one. It would take like months to research everything. And so, yeah, if you know something, share it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we should get going because I know we're filming this on October 4th and some alert is about to go off.
I know. And I'm sorry, my phone went off earlier. I don't know if you guys heard it. Like I'm already, screwing it up. We're going to do it before it really gets loud.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be loud or some shit. And I don't know. So, but thank you so much for wanting to do this, wanting to come on and do this.
Thank you for having me. It's always a joy.
And where can you be found?
Be found at brandyburrowastrology.com and Brandy Burrow Astrology on Instagram, YouTube, and Ellie, please share where you can be found as well.
You can find me here on YouTube at Let's Up with Astrology. You can find me at my website, SaturnSeason.com, and on Instagram at Saturn Season Astrology.
Yes. And go ahead and like this video and subscribe to Ellie's channel.
Yes, and go check out Brandy's channel. Go like, subscribe, because she got good shit there too. And to everyone watching this, I will see y'all later.